Breaking news tonight from Windsor Castle, where an unprecedented confrontation has erupted between Prince William and Queen Camilla.
Take your hands off that robe this instant. The command echoed down the private limestone corridor of Windsor Castle with the force of an unyielding verdict. Prince William stood in the arched doorway of Queen Camilla's private dressing suite, his jaw clenched in cold fury, his eyes locked onto a scene that royal courtiers had desperately tried to conceal for months. Behind a locked oak wardrobe panel, originally sealed upon the death of Queen Elizabeth II, a master key had quietly been turned. And inside, resting beneath protective silk and velvet sheeting, lay the sacred 1953 Coronation Robe of Estate, the single most revered textile relic of the late Queen's 70-year reign. For weeks, private palace whispers had suggested that certain sovereign coronation treasures were missing from the official crown inventory. But the Prince of Wales had refused to rely on passive rumours. Accompanied by the keeper of the privy purse, the master of the household, and a senior royal security detail, William had bypassed customary royal protocol, marched into the private north wing, and personally overseen the opening of the locked vaults, uncovering a secret that has now sent shockwaves through the foundations of the British monarchy. To understand the magnitude of what William uncovered, one must understand the almost holy status of the 1953 Coronation Robe. Woven from hand-spun purple English velvet and lined with pure Canadian ermine, the robe features over 3,000 hours of hand embroidery in 18-karat gold bullion thread. Delicate wheat ears and olive branches wind along its 6.5-yard train, symbolizing peace, prosperity, and the sacred constitutional oath taken by Queen Elizabeth before the eyes of the Commonwealth. When the late Queen passed away in September 2022, strict royal statutes dictated that her ceremonial regalia was to be catalogued under the permanent, inviolable trust of the royal collection, stored in climate-controlled security vaults beneath Buckingham Palace. It was never meant to be altered, never meant to be displayed as private property, and under no circumstances was it to enter the private wardrobe of any living royal consort. The paper trail began unraveling during a routine quarterly audit conducted by the Royal Collection Trust at St. James's Palace. Senior archivists tasked with updating the Crown Estate Sovereign Asset Register flagged a critical discrepancy. Item classification RC 1953E2 was listed as checked out for routine archival conservation. Yet, when inspectors visited the textile laboratory at Hampton Court Palace, the vault was empty. There were no restoration logs, no condition reports, and no curatorial sign-offs. Instead, a confidential internal memo revealed that discretionary royal prerogative paperwork had been executed behind closed doors, authorizing the quiet physical transfer of the robe to Queen Camilla's personal styling office at Windsor Castle. When the briefing document landed on Prince William's desk at Kensington Palace, his reaction was immediate and uncompromising. William summoned the keeper of the privy purse and the Lord Chamberlain for an emergency inquiry. Confronted with the evidence, senior officials admitted that Camilla's personal dressmakers had petitioned to have the historic garment retailored, intending to repurpose sections of Elizabeth's iconic ermine border for upcoming state banquets and Commonwealth tours. William listened in utter disbelief. For the Prince of Wales, this was not a clerical oversight or an innocent fashion adjustment. It was a brazen attempt to usurp the memory and physical symbols of the greatest monarch in modern history. Refusing to allow the matter to be buried under layers of palace bureaucracy, Prince William took direct action. Early on a Tuesday morning, before the Daily Palace Diary had even commenced, William's motorcade swept through the gates of Windsor Castle. Bypassing the public state apartments, the prince headed straight for the private residential quarters in the North Wing. When Camilla's private aides and security personnel hesitated at the door, citing residential privacy, William stood his ground. Invoking his constitutional authority as Duke of Cornwall and heir apparent, he presented official Crown Estate reclamation orders. "Stand aside," William told the staff with chilling authority. "We are entering this room now." With the master of the household producing the master keys under direct order from the heir to the throne, the heavy oak doors of the dressing suite swung open. Inside, past rows of contemporary haute couture gowns, William located the sealed heritage wardrobe. When the internal locks were disengaged, the truth became undeniable. There, encased in uncatalogued travel trunks rather than museum-grade preservation cases, lay Queen Elizabeth's sacred 1953 coronation robe. The velvet train had already been marked with tailor chalk for alteration. But that was not all William found. Deep within the recesses of the wardrobe were multiple locked jewelry cases bearing the royal cipher of Princess Diana. Inside the velvet jewelry cases were some of the most precious personal heirlooms belonging to the late Princess of Wales, historic sapphire brooches, diamond drop earrings, and pearl chokers that Diana had explicitly willed to her sons with the strict intention that they be passed down to their future wives. Following Diana's death in 1997, these pieces were placed under royal family trusteeship. Yet here they were, tucked away in Camilla's private dressing suite without the knowledge or consent of Prince William or the Princess of Wales, Catherine. For William, seeing his mother's sacred personal treasures stored alongside his grandmother's coronation robe transformed an archival dispute into a deeply personal constitutional battle. Moments later, Queen Camilla returned to Windsor Castle from an engagement in London. When she walked into her dressing suite and found Prince William standing over the open wardrobe surrounded by security officers and inventory ledgers, the confrontation became immediate and volcanic. Camilla was incandescent with rage, demanding to know who had authorized the intrusion into her private apartments. She accused William of violating sovereign decorum and staging a mutiny against the royal household. Witnesses reported that the Prince of Wales did not blink. With icy composure, William replied, "You have no right to this robe, and you have no right to my mother's jewels. They belong to the British nation and the legitimate succession, not to you." In her defense, Camilla vehemently argued that as Queen Consort and anointed sovereign companion to King Charles III, she held ultimate stewardship over all royal household collections, wardrobe archives, and ceremonial styling. She claimed that the coronation robe was merely being prepared for an educational Commonwealth exhibition under her personal patronage, and that Diana's jewelry was being catalogued for royal security purposes. But William was armed with official Crown documentation that destroyed her defense. He produced the original legal trust deeds demonstrating that these specific sovereign relics were protected under binding hereditary covenants that explicitly prohibit non-bloodline consorts from claiming ownership or authorizing structural alterations. As tensions reached a boiling point inside Windsor Castle, a formidable ally entered the fray. Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, arrived at the castle to stand shoulder to shoulder with her nephew. As Queen Elizabeth's only daughter and the Grand Master of the Royal Victorian Order, Anne holds unparalleled authority over royal household protocol and the execution of the late monarch's personal wishes. And made her position ruthlessly clear, she confirmed that Queen Elizabeth had spoken with her extensively before her passing, giving explicit instructions that her ceremonial robes and Diana's personal jewels were never to be absorbed into Camilla's working wardrobe. With and backing William, Camilla's advisors realized they were facing an insurmountable royal united front. During the heated meeting, Princess Anne produced a copy of a confidential memorandum signed by Queen Elizabeth II at Balmoral Castle in August 2022, just weeks before her death. The document explicitly stated that all coronation regalia, personal state gowns, and designated heirloom tiaras were to be placed in permanent custody for the future reign of King William V and Queen Catherine. Elizabeth had foreseen the exact risk of institutional overreach and had established clear safeguards to ensure her legacy remained protected. When Camilla was presented with the late Queen's own signature and seal, the debate was effectively over. The escalating feud forced King Charles III to convene an emergency family summit at Highgrove House. The King, currently managing his demanding schedule alongside his ongoing cancer recovery, found himself trapped in an agonizing personal and constitutional dilemma. On one side stood his devoted wife, Queen Camilla, who felt deeply humiliated by the public raid. On the other stood his heir, Prince William, who refused to compromise on the integrity of the crown. Charles pleaded for calm, urging both parties to reach a quiet compromise without public disclosure. But William made it unequivocally clear that compromise was impossible when the sanctity of the monarchy was at stake. At the Highgrove summit, William delivered an ironclad ultimatum. He insisted on the immediate implementation of a new, legally binding royal succession protocol. Under the terms of this protocol, drafted with senior constitutional advisors from the Duchy of Cornwall, no Queen Consort or non-bloodline royal may access, transfer, or modify any historical crown regalia or Spencer family heirlooms without the written, unanimous consent of the Prince of Wales and the Board of Trustees of the Royal Collection. Recognizing that William held total constitutional high ground and the full backing of Princess Anne, King Charles formally ratified the directive. Within 24 hours of the Highgrove summit, the late Queen's 1953 coronation robe was formally sealed in a high-security container and escorted by armed officers of the Royalty and Specialist Protection Command. The priceless garment was transported directly to the sovereign vaults at the Tower of London, where it has now been placed under permanent, biometric lock and key alongside the crown jewels. Royal conservators confirmed that the tailor chalk marks were carefully removed, restoring the robe to its original pristine condition, completely protected from future unauthorized access. Simultaneously, the locked jewelry cases containing Princess Diana's sapphire collection and diamond heirlooms were formally released to the custody of the Prince and Princess of Wales. Under William's personal supervision, the items were catalogued and transferred to the secure private vault at Adelaide Cottage in Windsor Home Park. For Catherine, the Princess of Wales, the return of these precious pieces represents far more than jewelry. It is a profound emotional link to the mother-in-law she never met, preserved with the dignity and reverence that Diana always deserved. In the aftermath of the transfer, royal constitutional historians have hailed William's decisive intervention as a vital moment of legal preservation. To prevent any future sovereign overreach, the Duchy of Cornwall and the Privy Council established the Sovereign Heritage Act of State. This historic covenant classifies all royal regalia, state crowns, and personal monarchical archives as inviolable national property, completely insulated from private royal squabbles. Never again can a private monarch or royal consort quietly reallocate centuries of British craftsmanship without parliamentary oversight and public accountability. Across Britain and the Commonwealth, the deep affection for Queen Elizabeth II remains an unassailable pillar of national identity. For 7 decades, Elizabeth represented unfaltering duty, selflessness, and moral clarity. The realization that her most sacred garment came dangerously close to being retailored and privatized struck an intensely sensitive nerve among the British public. Had Prince William not intervened with such absolute resolve, the institutional damage to the monarchy would have been catastrophic. By taking a stand, William reaffirmed to millions of citizens that the standards set by his grandmother will be upheld at any cost. The fallout inside the royal household has been profound. Under the direct authority of Prince William and Princess Anne, senior administrative positions across Windsor Castle and Buckingham Palace have undergone a thorough restructuring. Members of Camilla's private styling retinue and external court who facilitated the unauthorized transfer have been stripped of security access clearances. Private residential access codes have been overhauled, establishing a clear line of demarcation between the sovereign state apartments and the private quarters of the King and Queen. Throughout this intense institutional storm, Prince William and Catherine have stood united with unmatched poise and public dignity. While managing the demands of public service, family life, and Catherine's ongoing health recovery, the Prince and Princess of Wales have demonstrated that they are the true moral center of the modern monarchy. Their popularity continues to surge, drawing widespread praise from royal commentators, political leaders, and the British public, who see in William the perfect synthesis of Elizabeth's iron duty and Diana's genuine warmth. Following the resolution of the crisis, Prince William hosted a private briefing at Kensington Palace with senior trustees of the Spencer estate and the Royal Collection. During this closed-door assembly, William established a permanent archival oversight committee tasked with conducting biannual forensic audits of all royal jewelry and historical garments. Earl Spencer, Diana's brother, expressed deep personal gratitude to William for standing firm and ensuring that Diana's legacy remains untainted by commercialization or palace factionalism. The Spencer Trust pledged their full institutional support to William and Catherine as they prepare for their future reign. Inside the Lord Chamberlain's office, formal disciplinary reviews were launched into how discretionary prerogative forms were signed without the knowledge of the Prince of Wales. Several senior clerks who had bypassed standard verification checks were reassigned away from sovereign heritage portfolios. The swift accountability sent a clear signal throughout the palace hierarchy. The era of informal backroom agreements and unaccountable favoritism is officially over under Prince William's watch. For the Spencer family, the recovery of Diana's heirloom jewelry was a moment of profound vindication. For over 2 decades, concerns had persisted that Diana's personal collection would slowly be dispersed or claimed by rival factions within the royal household. Princess Anne's unwavering support of William reinforced the historic bonds between the Crown and the Spencer estate, cementing an unshakable alliance dedicated to protecting the memory of the people's princess for generations to come. Across the 56 nations of the Commonwealth, news of the Coronation Robe's preservation has been greeted with immense respect. In Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, where Queen Elizabeth's 1953 tour remains etched in national memory, the robe is viewed as an enduring emblem of shared history and democratic continuity. By ensuring the garment remains in the sovereign trust at the Tower of London, William has safeguarded an international symbol of unity that transcends individual monarchs. With the physical relics securely returned and new protocols firmly established, the royal household has entered a period of renewed discipline. King Charles has privately acknowledged that William's decisive actions, while difficult in the moment, were essential for preserving the long-term credibility of the Crown. The King has increasingly delegated key sovereign responsibilities to the Prince of Wales, recognizing that the future of the dynasty rests squarely on William's capable shoulders. At Adelaide Cottage, Princess Catherine has carefully curated the returned jewelry collection, occasionally wearing Diana's iconic sapphire pieces at solemn state occasions as a quiet, elegant tribute to the late Princess of Wales. Catherine's graceful stewardship has won the hearts of the nation, proving that Diana's spirit lives on not through controversy, but through compassionate duty, maternal devotion, and unyielding dignity. This historic confrontation marks a definitive turning point in the modern British monarchy. It signals to the world that King Charles's reign is already transitioning into the era of Prince William. The Prince of Wales is no longer waiting in the wings, he is actively governing the moral and historical integrity of the Crown. As William and Catherine prepare for their inevitable coronation, their message to the palace establishment is clear: the sacred legacy of Queen Elizabeth II and Princess Diana will forever remain untouchable, protected by the iron will of the future king.